And sometimes those really awkward moments when you do hit upon the darkness that you don't want to deal with, or the memories, or just, it could be as simple as having had a great life with not too much trauma, but some kid made fun of you. You weren't able to throw the baseball far enough, and you got made fun of. It could be just simple things like that, even, that if your subconscious, if your little self draws you there, it's for a reason. It's, so what happened here? Let me meditate on that day a bit. What was I wearing? What was mom doing? Where was dad? And why was the coach, not nearby to protect me? And to do that type of work with someone who is an intuitive healer. Like, if I go into all the different types of healing that you can do, I've told you before, just looking at your website, I'm like overwhelmed in such a wonderful way. We can do this, we can do that. And it's so much about setting that intention and letting go, because our intention was to do Qigong, but it ended up being an exploration of maybe archetypal figures in my life and why they existed, and how to drop a lot of the resistance that I may have had with certain family members. And all of a sudden it transforms. And like, you look at it and you're like, why didn't I just do that earlier? Well, but there's always more, but it's just, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to say thank you, because you've really helped me go through 2 or 3 blocks that I had just been constantly just brushing up against or hitting right up against. And there was an and put in where those blocks were instead of the but. So thank you.
You're very welcome. It's an honor and a pleasure to serve others in this way. I feel this isn't the first career I've had in my life, and it's, but everything that I've done prior has been leading me to this place, which, I've been doing this.
Which I believe you've been in before, because I definitely get the vibe that you are an old soul. I always call you and refer to you as an oracle. Like, sometimes you just reach in and get it. And I believe you have to go through many lifetimes of studying to get to where you are. And on the flip side, like you said, we all know everything at the same time. Let's get into your book, because the book, 10 Gates into the Garden, this unlocks the light codes. And I told you, when I first got this, I just sat with it and I felt major openings within my chakras, specifically the heart chakra.
Well, it is green, the cover.
It's green, and just the word garden puts you into a really safe, breezy, easy place to do some work that may get uncomfortable, but if you're going to do that kind of work, why not sit in the garden? And you guys, the table of contents itself is so brilliantly laid out in that if there is ever a book that I have been waiting for that touches upon so many of the metaphysical topics that exist, and you co-wrote this with David Harry Davis,
yes,
who, if you're a Syracusan, I'm sure you have heard of or been to the Seven Rays bookstore, and he was the original founder and owner, correct?
Yes.
And
I've been doing this teaching of this work for years and lifetimes, really, but I have known David for over 30 years, first meeting him through his daughter, and then I had a friend who worked at Seven Rays, and bought my first tarot deck there, and which I have been using up until very recently. I got the same deck but a new one because it was so dog-eared, and it just was really looking sorry. So anyway,
Rider-Waite.
Pardon me?
Is it a Rider-Waite?
No, it's the Robin Wood tarot that was the, I just was really drawn to the artwork, and it just, the energy of the cards really just resonated with me.
And
It's certainly
also
based, it's based on a Rider-Waite.
you did the artwork for the tarot in here,
Yes.
which is
That's
awesome.
yes.
And it'll actually be available in tarot card form for people to purchase some point in the near future.
Yes. Yes, and it's the major arcana that we're focusing on, that is highlighted throughout the book. 10 gates into the garden is, there are 10 chapters that are portals, you could say, that allow us to reawaken to the life of spirit, to the self, the higher self. And there are exercises, spiritual exercises and meditations throughout the book. So it's really a kind of a class, it's a course that it becomes an alchemical transformation that occurs for us, where we're transmuting energy as we're awakening and broadening, you know, looking at things in perhaps a new way. There certainly may be material in there that a reader has familiarity with, but I feel like the way that we're presenting it is sheds new light on David's school that he ran at Seven Raises, called the School of the New Light. So it's the light that's sort of always there and ever present within us, that we are awakening to, and the way that we're approaching these teachings is, I feel, it unifies so many different traditions, and I mean, we there's a through line and a thread that's woven to create this tapestry from each of these different traditions, and it creates this, it's, you know, it's like you create this blanket, that you cocoon yourself in, and you do this alchemical work, you do this, you know, in some cases your shadow work, and looking at what it is that's been holding, you know, what we've been holding on to, that's been holding us back from living this life of our, you know,
All this potential and abundance, and like our rock star self. And someone described it yesterday as like a bungee cord attached to our back, because oftentimes it's not just like, oh, I'm lazy and so I'm not doing my stuff. People can be trying to attain their goals and will hit a certain point and all of a sudden get pulled back because there's still work to be done. And the
Sure.
ego is still stronger than being in full alignment with the self. I'm talking to myself here. I'm reminding myself as to, you know, how to react to situations, because
respond rather than
respond to situations in which things don't go as planned, which, like today, I mean, I there was a million reroutes as to how we were going to do this interview, where, and the lighting and the outfit and the time and I thought I had it all together. I thought I knew what button to press, and it was going to be, and then it turned into a journey and a bunch of journeys within. And there was something I felt very conscious of transmuting throughout the process. And I had to show up. We had to show up today, you know? And you're right. It's like when you're doing that high work, that high level work, that's when the resistance will come in and just pull on the back of your cloak. And you just have to say, hi, I see you there.
you. Yes. And that's the thing. It's, you know, we all want to be seen.
All good.
Right?
You know, send it.
We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. And, you know, I mean, the Black Lives Matter movement, these individuals they want to be seen, they want to be heard. They want to have an equal experience of life. And so the ego, when it's, I mean, you were talking earlier, I'm now trying to remember exactly how you described the relationship, but it made me think of let's say, there's me, and then I have two friends, and that creates a triangulation, right? If it's just the two of us, like the energy's going like this. If there's a third person, the third wheel or whatever, the energy is transitioning around. And at some point it's going to be going like this, and this other person's going to feel left out, right? And then maybe it's going this way, and that person's going to feel left out. Well, when we start to move in the direction of the soul, the ego gets, you could say, jealous. And it's like, no, I want you all for myself, right? I want this relationship to be, just the two of us against the world. And that's often when we're in that state of feeling like we need to protect ourselves. We know that that's the ego is really in full, flare at that point, because the soul knows it has eternity. It's not going to fight for our attention. It might, tap us and, text us or whatever, hey, I'm here. But we have to come to the soul of our own free will. And that's, and that's where the awakening and the raising of our vibration, our consciousness, is a result of the conscious choice to evolve.
So this just came to me as like a way to wrap up how to do shadow work for beginners. This visualization just came to me, and I want to just express it, and maybe if you feel like it's right, sign off on it. If not, let's adjust it.
Sure.
But
and
almost inner chamber, like a what?
You said but, and I said and
alchemize it. Imagine yourself in like an inner chamber, like literally what you would think when you hear the words inner chamber. This is your inner chamber, and there's like fire burning in torches, and just stone walls, comfortable setting, cozy, a bunch of pillows in the middle, and you sit in there. And you just sit and you meditate. And you focus on the breath. And you allow your thoughts to happen. It's not to fight the thoughts off, but it's to quiet the mind enough so that the thoughts just slow down. And you observe what the thoughts are that are coming up. And little by little, when you're in an observation mode, the thoughts will slow down, and they'll keep slowing down until there is silence, peaceful silence and space. Now you can go into a meditation with a specific intention and basically wait for the answer to come up, or you can just hold that space and your highest self will deliver to you whatever it is you need to work on. Maybe it's being smug in your Facebook statuses. Maybe you have every right to love and want a certain candidate. That is your right. It's given to you. It's sovereignty. It's what this country stands for. But maybe expressing that in a way where you're just speaking your truth as opposed to tarnishing the reputation of the other side. It's just simple adjustments like that I feel might be coming up collectively for people right now. Maybe it's more on an individual level, unassociated with politics, but relationships. But it's getting there, clearing out 5 to 10 minutes to start when you wake up, ideally. And just because the mind is in a transformative process from the dream state into the real world, the now matrix that we are in.
The real world.
So often, that's why I often say to meditate in the morning, because there's wisdom that you are attached to and have access to in dream state, especially if you train yourself. And if you'd like to, just do some research. Maybe Brandon can tell us about his dream experiments someday, because I know he delved deep during the pandemic with that. But yeah, it's mainly about getting there, like loving yourself enough to give yourself that 5 to 10 minute space when you wake up, see what comes up, set the timer on your phone. When it goes off, go about your day. But just having done that, what I find at least is throughout my day, certain things will come to me associated with whatever came into that space in the chamber, in my safe space, my safe healing chamber to work on.
Yes, I agree. And I would add, so yes, and.
Please do.
In that observation space, we might call it that the witness self. We are observing without judgment. And that's because oftentimes the thought can come through, and then it might even be, oh my God, there's a thought, and exactly, that's a judgment, right? Like it shouldn't be there, but it is. So we just allow, and then maybe it's the thought comes in, and it's of a relationship I'm in, and what went down yesterday, and I get caught up in the story, and maybe I'm choosing to express anger as a result, or what have you. That again, it's the ego mind, it's the judge, the critic, that comes in to qualify the thought and to emotionally charge it. And there are thoughts that we can have that are really sort of neutral. I mean, all thoughts are neutral.
So what does one do when it's a charged thought and it's triggering? What is a good tool someone can use in that moment so that they're not, like you said before, just disassociating? Like, I don't want to think about that.
Right.
So,
well, it's be present to what the emotion is, because it's energy, and if we try to push it away, we're not getting rid of it. We're suppressing it, and it's going to come up in other ways, and
possibly
ways,
as disease,
and typically it's more amplified when it finally does express. So being present to the emotion and allowing ourselves to feel the feeling. I mean, there's I don't know what I would say. The way that I see emotion, it's different from feelings. When sometimes we speak of those two things interchangeably. The emotion is the energy, the vibration.
It oftentimes rises up here. Yes.
Well, it depends on the emotion, really, where we feel it in the body, and so that's how I distinguish. Emotion is the energy that we might label as joy or depression or whatever, and the quality of that emotion is how we feel. That emotion is related to the vibration. So if it's a higher vibrational emotion, it's going to feel different in the body than a lower vibrational energy or emotion. And the lower vibrational energies of fear and doubt and anxiety and those sorts of things are because the vibration is low, the wavelength is like broader, you could say, longer, and that creates this sense of weight and ponderousness. And when it's a higher vibrational thought, the wavelength is quicker, it's moving faster, so it has this sense of upliftment, right? And a buoyancy and a lightness about it. And it feels different than those other thoughts. So when we are in a space of experiencing a lower vibrational energy as emotion, we can be present to it and from this space of detachment, you know, as being as objective as we possibly can. And it might even serve to imagine that one is watching a movie. Like, this isn't my life. Yes, it is. But if I can step outside of myself, you know, of the ego consciousness, and step back and observe it from, you know, sometimes in dreams, like you're in it, and sometimes you're this observer that's watching it. And so, you know, see if you can step into that space and observe. And then be with that for a number of cycles of breath. The breath can always brings us back to the present moment. It's the tether to the eternal now, because it's continuously unfolding in the present. And we then can begin to shift the vibration of that energy, that charge, that you, as you said, by bringing to mind a thought that feels better.
And allowing that energy to go to that frequency.
Yes, where it's like it's the law of resonance. So, you know, we want to you know, pluck the string that's higher vibration and invite the lower vibration to start to raise in frequency and move in the direction of it. You know, that's why, like, if you're going to work and you're having conflict with a coworker, your boss, or whatever, people might suggest that you envision them surrounded in light, or that you're just sort of emitting light toward them. Because, you know, when it's coming from an
actually will be.
Say that again.
You actually will be. Because it's not just like an envisioning factor where it's in your imagination. You actually will be emitting light, and you will actually run into light just because you are creating that within the reality that you are carrying within the matrix.
Yeah. And I would say the thing about, you know, you said when you were speaking about the imagination as though that was something that isn't valid. And it is our imagination that creates whatever it is that we're experiencing, right? Because we visualize in our imagination, it's image, right? Image, it's I, mage, right? I am the mage. I am the wise one, right? I am the magician, right? So it's the magician card in the tarot, right? So, when I image something, when I imagine something, it's like in Qigong, where the mind goes, the energy flows. So if I'm from an authentic place, you know, visualizing this person surrounded in light, I'm emitting light from my heart center right out, you know, with each breath. Inhale, bring it in, exhale, direct it out. Then that changes my vibration. So if what I'm experiencing out here is a reflection of what's happening in here, it's going to change my experience. Even if it's just me going, oh, I can see that maybe they're having a rough day today. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I can be a little bit more compassionate rather than thinking, oh, their, you know, foul mood has something to do with me. And that's all just ego. Oh, it's about me. It's got to be about me. And if I can be from, you know, operating from that place of the soul, the self, and say, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, this person needs some extra love today, and not take what they're about personally.
And you can even go as far as connecting, like you're connecting with your higher self. You can connect to other people's higher selves in that regard too. You can.
I mean, ideally, when we're engaged with anyone, we are.
Ideally, is heart to heart. And you are aligned and I am aligned. So that highest self is going, right?
Right. Well, so your highest self and my highest self are the same thing. Exactly.
Right.
You have a different soul than I do because you've had different experience.
Interesting. I always thought the highest self was the perfect version of like me, my highest self. Perfect version of you is your highest self. Highest self is then tapped into the divine. So that's not how it is. But divine is you and me are the same thing. But I always envisioned highest self as being unique to the perfect form of that person. It's not. Oh my goodness.
The soul is unique.
So the soul is here in what is, you know, in spirit form in our body.
The soul is an amalgamation of all the experience we've ever had through all of our lifetimes.
So our spirit is
an energetic signature, you could say, right? It's a resonance.
Jinx. Not really. We both said energetic at the same time.
Oh.
What can we say instead of that? Reverse jinx and blessings. Blessings.
Yes, right. Changing the vibration of that, right? So the soul is unique to each of us based on our experience. The self is the individualized, you know, you have an aspect of the divine within you that you call yourself or your higher self. I have an aspect of the divine in me that I would call the self or the higher self, you know, and there's other names and other, you know, traditions as well. But that aspect is from source. So it's the same in you as it is in me. So that's what we are, you know, oftentimes we have to go through the soul to get to the self, because the soul is it's sort of like, if it's like concentric circles, right?
And is what's tethered to the Akashic records, or is that not?
Well, the Akashic record, there's the Akashic record of all of creation, which is like God's memory, you could say, right? Or the memory of source or divine or whatever you want to call it. Then we each have our own individual Akashic record, which is the soul.
Which, for people that don't know what the Akashic record is, like you explained, it's like our story, but is it a book? I guess I'm asking also for myself, because, or do people often envision it as a book because it's something our mind can grasp?
Yes. I mean, you know, people speak of going to the Hall of Records, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like, you know, Harry Potter where you like go in and you open up this big book, and it's because it's energy, right? And
that's how I envision it, though. I envision this book,
whatever works, right?
Into a hologram, and like you just go through it, and some pages are ancient and some are futuristic, and everybody's looks different. But I always envision this Harry Potter-esque hall with.
Sure. I mean, you could see it as like a CD. Like if I have a computer game on a CD, I guess is that how they come? DVDs, whatever. Like every possible outcome that exists in the coding of that game is present in that little disc, right? And so that's, but for, you know, the game that I happen to be playing, I'm only accessing one layer of that, right? But all of the rest of it is there. So my soul has the whole thing, and you know, that's like the past, the present, and the future are all existing simultaneously.
I know, and that's a whole mind-blowing subject for me, because then we're getting into time and we're getting into parallel.
This conversation could go on for days.
Yes, but the thing is, this conversation is so important that I'm okay with it. Like I want to move to the next portion, but I'd be happy to do this again, because I think these are really important conversations that demystify spirituality and make it more digestible. And if anything, I want people to realize, like, it really doesn't matter what your religious or spiritual upbringing is, but if you do care to have a spirituality practice, it's not about it's really about finding what works for you. It's not about what's been indoctrinated into you, downloaded by your parents or society. If I believe in sovereignty across the board within the limits of not hurting anyone else, which I think is inherent within the word sovereignty regardless, but you can really free yourself. This isn't about, you know, joining a cult. It's about finding out who your true self is, doing the work, clearing your way so that you can enjoy, and we collectively can enjoy our time here on earth. I very much believe with all of my heart and soul that we can create a utopia on earth. Like, we have everything. And the breakdown of the system that was hindering us from being able to create something that is more inclusive of...
So the system that we need to deconstruct is here.
Right, and that's what we...
Not out here.
You're right, and that's what we keep
what's
going
out
back
here
to.
is a reflection of what's in here.
Exactly. So we all have to take care of our own stuff, as opposed to being like, you need to do this, you need to believe in that, you should be on this side of the political fence, you should be in this, you know, side of this religious, you know, construct. It's like, leave everybody alone. Let everybody be and concentrate on thyself and connecting to your own self, because it will create peace. It'll create peace because the more you go inward and chase, I don't want to use the word chase, but sometimes it can be a little bit of a chase, but and hold space to find that peace within you and do the work. You can take breaks. You can always take breaks. You don't have to kill yourself and go through every, you know, nook and cranny within a few weeks. Sometimes it's really consciously setting a month aside to go through an issue that you know is going to trigger you. You're going to need a little bit more time to recover. Maybe it's, hey, I want to deal with that next year, but I'm going to find a therapist that is going to hold me to that. If spirituality is a little too much for certain people, I highly invite people to look into whether their insurance carries, you know, or covers a therapist, because a therapist, a healer, these are the people in society that are there to help you kind of get to a place where you're not suffering, if you are, where you're suffering a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less until that suffering transmutes into joy. When you wake up in the morning, you're like, yes, I am on purpose. I am doing what I feel like I'm meant here to be. I dropped my career in XYZ because that was not bringing me joy, was not fulfilling, and I'm doing this, and I'm on path. I'm on my path. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll just say that again, just to
sure,
shameless self-promotion, that 10 Days into the Garden, Spiritual Teachings for the Awakening Consciousness, is a really wonderful way to consciously step onto the path. And it's something that I would recommend that you do very gradually and slowly. It's not a book you can read in a weekend, nor would you want to. You wouldn't want to eat everything on the buffet all at once. It would make you nauseous. You know, like, you can't consume that much information and be grappling with it and digesting it in any productive way, so that you can glean the most, you know, the juiciest parts out of it if you're just flying through it. And so
awesome. Well, thank you. Do you want to do the questions that you have for me? And I'm going to keep my answers so short at this stage, because I feel guided to. And then let's do the card draw.
Sure.
and wrap that up, and then go back and do the intro. How does that feel?
Sure, that sounds great.
Okay, cool. So, Katrin, you have a couple questions for me today as we wrap up this interview, so go ahead.
So what I would like to know more specifically, because I've been learning about your CBD olive oil products, and I would really like for you to share with me and everyone else who's listening how you came to choose the name of the product, the Metanoia.
Metanoia. So I always loved that word because it just kind of like flows off the tongue. It might be a little intimidating at first if you don't know how to pronounce it, which is why we are pronouncing it a lot in the campaigns that we've been releasing. But that was a list of a lot of really interesting words, and me going into a meditation and meeting the goddess Isis, because a lot of the major decisions that I make with the brand in general, I go to her for guidance. And she blessed Metanoia. And after that,
how did you come to know that word to begin with? Like,
I think I just saw it in a meme, actually, because I posted it years ago. It was like one of those like dictionary,
right? It's Greek,
mm-hmm.
Isn't it Greek?
Greek, and it basically means purification of the soul, which to me fits this brand because I want the olive oil and all of the other products that are simultaneously going to be rolling out to be conduits for people to contemplate and unlock their potential, because that is the slogan. So when people use our muscle bomb or dose their salad, they are genuinely setting an intention to, yes, put CBD into their body or onto their body to help, with whatever, their intention may be there, but also to have a constant reminder to go inward. And I think if I can do a service in providing such an awesome product that has taken a while to get into place, because it's a work of art. It's become a work of art. So the word metanoia is originally Greek and has traveled through, I'm not really sure where, but biblically it was used, and it went from transmutation of the soul to a little bit more of a indoctrinated patriarchal vibe, where it meant to fix the soul, to figure in a manner that had a little bit of shame attached to it, as though we are flawed. I don't remember the exact, and I will look up what I saw in the history of the word, but there was shame and blame attached to it. And then it kind of, the word kept moving geographically until it became purification of the soul once again. So the word in of itself has gone through purification. So I find that to be really symbolic and powerful in terms of the intention that I am setting for others to be able to set for themselves.
Very apt.
Such a short answer, right?
So I'm also curious now, in this current state of affairs that we find ourselves in the world. Many people are experiencing frustration, whether that's because of the pandemic, or maybe it's the political climate or other things that are happening as a result of those things, and many people are just utterly exhausted. What is one key maybe practice that you are exploring these days that helps you to stay grounded, or in a greater state of peace, or just ease in your life?
Well, when I look back on the last few months in that, and retrospectively try and figure out where I was the most grounded when everything was spinning, it was when I was doing production work. Like, that is something that I absolutely love to do. I have black on today because I was in producer mode before hopping on camera, and there's something about the color black and interacting with people and setting up lights, and I love that. And it's basically me creating, connecting to my creative side, my expression of who I am and how I see the world potentially getting better. Even in the productions we've created for the brand, we have explored those themes of where we are. I mean, we looked up some King Lear quotes yesterday that he wrote when he was in lockdown, and really tried to find a couple that like really, really resonated with us here and now, and how interesting the juxtaposition of the time period is, and how, yes, humans evolve, but we're still humans at the end of the day, and we're meant to be not caged up, and to see and feel and hear the frustration of Shakespeare in those times really spoke deeply. So I think it's connecting to art and creating, and knowing that I am going to impart wisdom. That's my intention anyways, is to impart.
It sounds as though what you're saying also is that this production, creative work, provides you with a very clear sense of purpose. And it seems, and that's certainly something that I have been, has helped me to maintain, my sanity and my sense of equilibrium, balance during these times is the work that I'm doing, and the sense that I'm in alignment with my purpose and that, and I know that, a lot of people are sort of in this time of self-isolation. This gets to my next question. Many people have availed themselves of the opportunity for some inner reflective moments and beginning to discern for themselves what's really important in their lives. And I'm just wondering if you would share maybe one of the most important, if your sense of what your priorities or your view of what's important has changed in any way, having been given the opportunity, and if you've taken it, to self-reflect.
Yes. So when everything started spinning a little bit out of control back in March, I remember feeling this overwhelming, almost paralyzing responsibility to save the world, to help save the world right now. Like, this is crazy. What can I do? Just delving into all the different angles, all the rabbit holes, in trying to figure out how I can affect the situation positively. And by the situation, I mean every situation collectively that is seemingly in chaos, but transmuting in its own right. And recently, and I want to say within the last 2 weeks, I came to this conclusion that I can't, and that it's not my job to, which took a lot of pressure off my subconscious and physically the aches in my shoulders. And, even in conversations with you, just realizing that it isn't about, and that's a great intention. I'm proud of myself for having that selflessness in moments where I care so much for others. I care so much for the world. I care so much for humans. The answer is not, as we spoke of earlier, not to go outwards, but to go inwards. And the more I go inwards, the more I'm showing up here, and I'm on purpose and putting out my message and my vibration and aligning with people that resonate with that. And that in of itself, just by me going inward and expressing myself, is going to do just that. And it might not save the world completely, but it will at least impart that imprint that I really feel is my purpose. Because when everything started happening, I just, for days, I was like, I knew this was going to happen. Ever since I was a little girl, I saw these days coming and very much would bring them up to people, and they'd be like, no, everything is fine. Everything is fine. That's never going to happen. If it does, it's going to happen way in the future. It's happening. And I'm so here for it. I'm so here for it. And I'm just honored to be able to connect with my tribe, because that also really grounded me. Like, people that I really pre-pandemic wouldn't see as often, I start FaceTiming and seeing their face every day just because we're inside. So it strengthened certain bonds and let others that weren't vibrating at my level go in peace. But yeah, that's really how I've been surprised. I've been surprised that I've let go of that. And
so maybe what you've just described answers my last question, but I'm going to ask it anyway in case something, different occurs to you. And that is, what is one of the most revelatory things that you've learned about yourself thus far in the year 2020? Just because it's been so, ooh, somebody's shooting off fireworks outside.
really?
Yeah, I hear fireworks all the time around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Seemingly, just random times.
No, I remember I used to live not too far from Katrin, and it was like the most amount of fireworks I've ever heard. And then 4th of July, forget about it. Forget the day before, the day after. But I tried to kind of change my reaction, because it was like, the way it scares animals, it scares me too. It's like there's an explosion. But then I started trying to associate a release of energy and transmutation of the neighborhood area to it, and just kind of envisioned the explosion releasing any lower vibrations that might exist in the physical plane in that area. So that helped me. That helped me not freak out every time I heard. I literally took cover the first time with Isis, my cat. But okay, to answer your question, the most revolutionary thing I learned about myself is to trust my intuition. If I saw this period coming as a child and allowed myself to doubt it because adults or other kids or what have you, were like, no. When I know something, I tend to not be able to escape it when it's something important. It's there until I verbalize it. So I have been more and more trusting my intuition over the last few years, but in a revolutionary manner this year. So would you do us the honor of pulling a tarot card? And the intention we can set is, what do we need to know? What is the message that the universe would like to leave us with as we close this amazing interview? And thank you so much for once again opening portals and swimming around through philosophies with me. And I always feel in interacting with you and like having sessions with you, and I'm going to book a session with you. I need a session with you. So I will go ahead and reach out to you tomorrow to set that up, and we'll have your information down at the bottom so that other people can explore your website and your incredible list of offerings. And they can contact you, through the email on the website?
Yes. My phone number's there too, so people can text or call if that.
And if you feel like I did when you first looked at, and you're like, I'm not really sure where to go, Katrin does consultation. So reach out and just let her know what's up, what you're trying to work through, and maybe a couple of the these offerings that caught your eye, that felt like it resonated? That's usually how it happens. I approach you with like 2 or 3 things and you're like, I think we need to do this one first. What do you think? And you ultimately leave it up to me, which is wonderful. So looking forward to doing it again.
Good.
Awesome.
So just with regard to the consultation, I refer to it as soul support, and it's a free consultation, and it can last anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour, you know, and it's a way for us to, or for me to learn, you know, what your current condition is, or you know, what it is you're experiencing, and goals that you may have for your the work that you're intending for your own transformation. And it starts to develop a relationship, because to do this work, it's important that you feel that you can trust the person that you're working with. And so that's a way to sort of lay that foundation, and then I can maybe direct you if you're not so clear on what you'd like to start with, as to where we might begin. Okay, so speaking of, this is so perfect because the card that I have pulled, speaking of beginning, is the Page of Cups, which is all about new beginnings, right? So cups have to do with, well, water is, and that's divine feminine energy and creativity. And so this is about initiating steps, and, you know, and that could just be journaling. It could be, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be something massive, but beginning to formulate intentions in terms of how to align with that which you feel called to in terms of your purpose, and activating the imagination to begin to envision that which you intend. And when we can align our thoughts, so that would be I have to be able to conceive something first, in order to manifest it. And I have to believe that it's possible. So conceive it, believe it, achieve it, right? And so that's a little mantra you might use. And
conceive, believe, achieve.
Yes, and really it's more, and that happens to rhyme, so it works well, but it's really more to the point, is conceive it, know it. Know, it's just like everything has a cycle. I know when I plant a seed, you know, I want to grow tomatoes. I plant the seed. I trust that the cycle will eventually produce the fruit. And I have to release my attachment to the outcome. Because if I start digging up, you know, where are you? I don't see any shoots yet. And I start digging up the seed, I'm going to throw the cycle out of balance. And the seed might never come to fruition. So we plant the seed. That's the conscious, the thought, the conscious mind plants the seed in the subconscious. And that's the cup, that's the vessel that's here, that's being held, right? That's the earth, the vessel. And we plant the seed there, and then we keep our focus on our intention. And we release our attachment to the outcome. Because we can't force it. We have to allow it. And when we're forcing, when we're pushing, that's that but that we were talking about earlier, right? It's like, but I gotta, and it's, you know, ask and it is given. We are, and then of course we have to allow, we have to accept, we have to be open to receive, because it might not look exactly as we thought it was going to show up. And so.
And tonight happens to be a full moon. So full moons are about releasing things. So if today, tonight, tomorrow is spent letting go of the stuff, like letting the stuff that's coming up for you in your shadow work go, you then have clearer a clearer space to plant the seed.
Yes, exactly. It's like you would weed a garden, right? Before you would till the soil, you would get rid of the roots and the rocks and whatever else, the vines that could choke off that fragile seed in its nascent stage. And rooting yourself in the your, you could say, your faith, but it's the faith in the cycle. It's the faith in the process. It's a faith the uh, in the self, and that it's like a mathematical equation or a formula that when we work with it, it always produces the same result, and we just have to know what those variables are and keep sticking, keep using those same variables, and we're going to get that same result, which is whatever it is we intend.
Manifestation. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Katrin. It's been such a pleasure to have you on. It's always literally an enlightening and just joyful experience. Thank you.
I'm honored, and I'm so grateful that you invited me to be here with you.
Amazing. And don't forget to grab 10 Gates into the Garden, and there'll be a link below to this. You guys will absolutely love this book. I know.
The website is easy. It's 10gatesintothegarden.com. So,
nice.
And I have Facebook and Instagram as well, so you can look for me there.
All right. Well, thank you.
Namaste, my dear.
Namaste.
I'll be hearing from you soon, right?
Sounds good. I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Bye.
Good night.